Ethan was just another man living a simple life in a quiet neighborhood. His job at a small bookstore kept him busy, but he never minded. He liked the peace, the routine. His days were simple. Wake up, go to work, come home, and read. His life had always been calm and predictable. But one evening, everything was about to change. It was a cold winter evening. Ethan had just finished his shift at the bookstore and was walking home through the park. Near his apartment, the streets were nearly empty. The sky was covered in dark clouds, and the chill of the evening air made him pull his coat tight around himself. He didn't expect to see much, just the usual cold night and a few late-night walkers. But something caught his eye. On a bench near the center of the park, a girl sat alone. She looked about his age, but something about her made him stop. She was bundled in a thin jacket, her arms wrapped tightly around her, as though trying to hold on to warmth that wasn't there. Her face was pale, and her eyes were wide, staring out into the dark. It was the look of someone lost, someone who had nowhere else to go. Ethan's heart tightened in his chest. It wasn't unusual for people to be out in the cold, but it wasn't right to see someone so young left alone like that. Without thinking too much, he walked up to her. The girl didn't seem to notice him at first, lost in her own world. Ethan cleared his throat softly. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked, his voice gentle. The girl flinched slightly, as if startled, and looked up. Her eyes were wide with fear at first, but then they softened when she saw him standing there, his hand still resting by his side. She didn't speak for a long moment, just looked at him, her lips trembling. I'm fine," she finally whispered, looking away as if not wanting to explain. Ethan wasn't convinced. He could see the exhaustion on her face, the way her hands were shaking. "You don't look fine," he said gently. "Do you need help? It's pretty cold out here." The girl hesitated, and for a moment, Ethan thought she might turn him down and walk away. But instead, she looked back at him, her eyes searching his face for something. Maybe it was trust. Maybe she was looking for a sign that she could believe him. I don't have anywhere to go," she said quietly, her voice almost a whisper. Ethan frowned, a pang of sympathy hitting him. "Where are you from?" he asked, his tone softening. She swallowed hard, clearly struggling with the words. I don't really have a home," she said, her voice trembling. I was staying with someone, but they kicked me out. Now I don't know where to go." Ethan didn't know what to say at first. He'd never been in a situation like this, never had to think about what it would be like to be so alone. But he couldn't just walk away. Something inside him told him he couldn't leave her out here in the cold. "Look, I live nearby," he said after a moment. "You can come to my apartment for the night, just to get out of the cold. I'll make some tea, and we can talk. You don't have to stay out here alone." The girl's eyes widened, and she looked at him with a mix of surprise and doubt. You would do that for me?" Ethan nodded. "It's the least I can do. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to. Just come inside and warm up." She hesitated, looking down at her hands, but then, slowly, she nodded. "Okay," she said, almost too quietly to hear. Ethan led the girl to his apartment, both of them walking through the dark streets. He didn't ask her name yet, didn't want to rush anything. He just wanted to get her somewhere warm, where she could feel safe for a little while. The whole time, the girl walked silently beside him, her eyes on the ground. When they reached his apartment, Ethan opened the door and let her in. The warmth of the place hit them immediately, and the girl stepped inside cautiously, a moment before, picking it up carefully. Her hand shook slightly as she brought the cup to her lips. Ethan watched her for a second, then sat down in the chair across from her. "I don't know how to thank you," she said quietly after taking a sip. "I've never met anyone who would help me like this." "You don't have to thank me," Ethan replied, offering her a small smile. "I just couldn't leave you out there. Everyone deserves a warm place to stay." The girl nodded, but she still seemed unsure. Ethan didn't push her. Instead, they sat in the quiet for a while, the sound of the tea gently sloshing in the cup the only noise between them. It wasn't much, but for now, it was enough. Little did Ethan know that this simple act of kindness was the start of something he never expected. The girl sitting on his couch, cold and uncertain, was about to change his life in ways he could never have imagined. The next few days were quiet, but Ethan could sense that something was shifting between him and Lily. She had started to settle into the routine of living in his apartment. Every morning, she helped him with small tasks, like making coffee or organizing the bookshelves. It wasn't much, but it was enough to show that she was trying to contribute, trying to make herself feel useful. Still, there were moments when Lily would retreat into silence. Sometimes, Ethan would catch her staring out of the window, lost in her thoughts. It was clear that her past haunted her, and he didn't want to push her too hard. He didn't want to make her relive the pain she'd shared with him that first night. But the more time they spent together, the more Ethan couldn't help but feel a connection with her. One evening, after dinner, Ethan sat down on the couch, a book in his hands. Lily was sitting on the other side, reading quietly. The soft light from the lamp above them made the room feel warm and peaceful. Ethan glanced over at her, noticing the way she held the book tightly in her hands, as though it was the only thing that could keep her grounded. He realized that she didn't seem like the scared, lost girl she had been when they first met. She was stronger now, even if she didn't fully see it. He put the book down and looked at her. "You're doing better, you know that?" he said. His voice soft. Lily looked up at him, surprised. She didn't say anything at first, but Ethan could see the hesitation in her eyes. It was like she wasn't sure if she deserved to hear something kind. "I mean it," he continued. "You've been working hard, and I can see that you're getting stronger every day." Lily lowered her gaze, her fingers fidgeting with the edge of the book. "I don't know," she said quietly. "I feel like I'm just taking up space. Here, you've done so much for me, and I don't want to be a burden." Ethan's heart softened. He had noticed that Lily often downplayed her worth, like she didn't believe she had the right to be happy or safe. It frustrated him, because he could see so much potential in her. He wanted to remind her of that, but he wasn't sure how. "You're not a burden," Ethan said, his voice firm but kind. "You're a guest here, and a friend. No one's ever a burden when they're trying their best." Lily's eyes flickered up to meet his for a moment, and Ethan could see the vulnerability in them. She was still afraid to fully trust, still unsure of herself. But there was something else there too, a hint of hope, something he hadn't seen in her before. The days passed, and as they spent more time together, Ethan couldn't ignore how much he cared for her. He began to realize that his feelings for Lily had changed. It wasn't just about helping her anymore. He found himself thinking about her when he wasn't around, wondering what she was doing or if she was okay. He looked forward to their conversations, to the quiet moments they shared. One afternoon, as they were having lunch, Ethan watched Lily carefully. She had been looking for a job for the past week, sending out applications and trying to figure out her next step. He knew it wasn't easy for her. There were moments when she doubted herself, and those moments seemed to weigh heavily on her. "You know," Ethan said, trying to sound casual, "I've been thinking, if you need any help with your resume or job search, I can look it over for you." Lily's eyes brightened a little, though she still looked uncertain. "I appreciate that," she said, her voice small. I don't know. What if I'm not good enough for a job? What if I mess it up?" Ethan reached across the table and placed a hand on hers. "Lily, you're stronger than you think. You've already come so far. You just need a chance, that's all." She looked at him, her expression softening for the first time in days. She smiled. "You really believe that?" "I do," he said, giving her hand a gentle squeeze. "I've seen you work hard, and that counts for a lot." The smile on Lily's face lingered, and Ethan felt his heart skip a beat. It was the first time he had seen her smile so freely. It made him feel something he couldn't quite put into words, something deeper than just friendship. Later that evening, Ethan sat in his usual chair, reading a book while Lily sat on the couch, flipping through a magazine. The soft hum of the city outside made everything feel calm. It was a simple moment, but Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that things had changed. He knew that Lily was still struggling with her past, but there was something about her that he admired, the way she kept pushing forward, the way she was starting to trust again. It made him proud of her, even though she might not see it herself. As the evening went on, Ethan glanced up from his book, watching Lily as she absent-mindedly turned a page. He realized that he didn't just care for her out of pity or obligation anymore. He cared for her because she was an incredible person, strong, kind, and deserving of so much more than she had been given. Lily looked up at him, catching his gaze. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence felt comfortable, warm, and shared. Ethan smiled at her, and she smiled back. Though this time there was something different about it. It wasn't just gratitude, it was something more. Something neither of them had fully acknowledged yet. That night, as Ethan lay in bed, he thought about everything that had happened. He hadn't expected any of this, taking in a stranger, helping her through tough moments, and now, finding himself caring for her in a way he hadn't planned. He didn't know what the future held. But one thing was clear. His life was no longer the quiet, predictable routine it had once been. And somehow, he didn't want it to go back to the way it was before. The days continued to pass quietly, and Lily settled into the life she was starting to rebuild. She had applied for several jobs, each time feeling a little more confident about her abilities. She spent her mornings with Ethan, and then would leave for interviews or job search meetings in the afternoons. Though it was a slow process, the more she tried, the more Ethan could see her confidence growing. But there were still moments when the weight of her past felt too heavy to bear. Some nights, Lily would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing with thoughts of everything she had lost. Even though Ethan had shown her nothing but kindness, part of her still felt unworthy. She couldn't help but think about her family, how they had abandoned her, how they had left her to fend for herself in the harsh world. One evening, after a long day of interviews, Lily came home feeling exhausted. She dropped her bag by the door and collapsed onto the couch, letting out a deep sigh. Ethan, who had been reading in the other room, looked up when he heard her. "Tough day?" he asked, setting his book down. Lily nodded, rubbing her forehead with one hand. "Yeah, it's just hard," she said, her voice soft. "I don't think anyone wants to hire me." Ethan walked over and sat next to her, his voice gentle. "You'll find something. I know it's not easy, but I believe in you." Lily smiled weakly, but there was still a sadness, and Lily didn't respond right away. Instead, she took a deep breath and wiped a tear away from her cheek. She hadn't even realized she'd started crying until she felt the wetness on her face. "I don't know what to do anymore," she whispered. "I don't know if I'll ever be able to fix everything I've lost." Ethan's heart went out to her. He didn't know what she had been through, but he could see how much pain she was in. All he wanted was to take that pain away, to show her that she was not alone. "Lily," he said softly, "you don't have to fix everything on your own. You've already made it so far. You've already started rebuilding your life. That takes a lot of strength." She sniffled, trying to compose herself. "But what if I don't succeed? What if I'm not strong enough?" "You are strong enough," Ethan said, his voice steady and sure. "I've seen it in you every day. You've been through more than most people, and you're still standing. You've got everything it takes to make it." Lily's eyes met his, and for a moment, they just sat there, the weight of their words hanging in the air. She didn't say anything, but she felt a warmth in her chest, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Maybe, just maybe, Ethan was right. Maybe she was stronger than she thought. The next few days were better. Lily started to believe in herself a little more. She had another job interview, and this time, it went well. It wasn't a perfect job, but it was a start. Ethan helped her prepare for it, offering advice and encouragement every step of the way. When she came back to tell him that she had been offered the job, her eyes sparkled with excitement. It wasn't much, but it was a step forward, and it felt like the first real sign that things were changing for her. Ethan smiled and gave her a congratulatory hug. "I knew you could do it," he said, his voice full of pride. Lily laughed, a real laugh this time. full of joy and relief. "I guess I'm finally starting to believe that too," she said. As the weeks went by, things continued to improve. Lily started working her new job at a small coffee shop, and though the hours were long and tiring, she was happy. She felt a sense of purpose again, and with Ethan's continued support, she began to heal. She was still haunted by the memories of her past, but with each passing day, they felt a little less heavy. One evening, as they sat together at the dinner table, Ethan noticed that Lily seemed more at ease. She was no longer the quiet, withdrawn girl she had been when they first met. She was starting to laugh more, to share stories with him, and for the first time in a long while, she seemed like she was truly living. "You're doing great," Ethan said, his voice warm. "I'm really proud of you." Lily looked up at him and smiled, her eyes shining. "Thank you, Ethan, for everything. I don't know where I'd be without you." Ethan's heart swelled with emotion. He hadn't expected any of this when he had first decided to help her. He had simply wanted to offer a warm place for someone in need. But now, he couldn't imagine his life without her. "You don't have to thank me," Ethan said softly, reaching across the table to take her hand. "I'm just glad I could be here for you." Lily squeezed his hand, and for the first time in a long while, she felt like she was finally where she was meant to be. The weeks went by quickly, and Lily continued to adjust to her new life. She had found a job at the local coffee shop, which helped her gain some independence. Though it wasn't the dream job she had imagined, it gave her a sense of purpose. She enjoyed talking to the customers, learning new things, and taking pride in doing something productive each day. Ethan noticed the change in her. She had started to smile more, and there was a lightness to her steps that hadn't been there before. She seemed more comfortable in her own skin, no longer weighed down by the fear and sadness that had once ruled her. Though there were still moments when her past haunted her, she was learning how to cope with it, how to push those thoughts away when they tried to take over. One evening, after a long shift at the coffee shop, Lily returned home feeling exhausted but happy. She had made a few extra tips that day, and it was one of those rare moments where she felt proud of herself. When she walked through the door, Ethan was waiting in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner. "Hey, how was your day?" Ethan asked, looking up from the cutting board with a smile. Lily dropped her bag by the door and stretched, a tired smile on her face. "It was good. Busy, but good. I made a little extra today." "That's great," Ethan said, setting the knife down. "You're really doing amazing. I'm proud of you." Lily blushed a little, the compliment making her feel a warmth she wasn't used to. She walked over and hugged him, feeling the comfort of his embrace. It had become a familiar feeling, this sense of security that Ethan provided. She no longer had to fear that she would be abandoned again. She was starting to trust him fully and completely, and it felt like the first real step toward healing. "I don't know what I'd do without you," Lily murmured into his shoulder. "You've made all the difference in my life." Ethan gently pulled back, looking at her with a kind smile. "I'm just happy to help, Lily. You've worked hard to get here, and I'm proud of everything you've accomplished. You're stronger than you give yourself credit for." Lily smiled and sat down at the table. Watching as Ethan finished preparing dinner, she felt a sense of peace she had never known before. For the first time, she didn't feel like she was just surviving. She was living. And that was thanks to Ethan. Over the next few days, Lily found herself thinking more about her future. She had always been afraid of what would happen next, of what kind of life she could build after everything she had been through. But now, with Ethan's support, she was beginning to dream again. Maybe she could find something more than just a job in the coffee shop. Maybe she could go back to school, finish her education, and work towards something bigger. She didn't know exactly what that would look like, but she felt like she was finally ready to take the next step. One evening, as they sat together after dinner, Lily decided to talk to Ethan about it. She had been holding onto the idea for a while, but she was nervous about bringing it up. What if it was too much? What if it was unrealistic? "I've been thinking about something," she said, her voice unsure. Ethan looked up from the book he was reading, giving her his full attention. "What is it?" Lily hesitated for a moment before continuing. I've been thinking about going back to school. I mean, I've always wanted to finish my education. But after everything that happened, it's exciting to think about the future in a way she hadn't in years. Ethan continued to support her, offering advice and encouragement whenever she needed it, but even as she worked toward her goals, there was still something Lily hadn't said, something that had been on her mind for weeks, ever since the day she moved in with Ethan. She had started to feel something deeper for him, something more than just gratitude. She had been afraid to acknowledge it at first, unsure of what it meant or where it would lead. But now, as she spent more time with him, as she saw the way he cared for her, she realized that what she felt for him was love. She loved him. One evening, as they sat on the couch together, she turned to him, her heart pounding in her chest. She didn't know how to say it, but she knew it was time. Ethan, she said softly, there's something I need to tell you. He looked at her, his eyes kind and curious. What's on your mind? Lily took a deep breath, her voice barely above a whisper. I think I'm falling in love with you. For a moment, the world seemed to pause. Ethan's expression softened, and a smile slowly spread across his face. He reached out and took her hand in his. I've been feeling the same way, he said quietly. I've loved having you here, Lily. You've brought so much light into my life. Lily's heart soared. She had never imagined that something like this could happen to her, that she could be loved, that she could love again. But here she was, feeling more loved and cared for than she had ever thought possible. And in that moment, as they sat together, both of them finally realizing the depth of their feelings for each other, Lily knew that her life had changed forever. She had found a home, a future, and most importantly, someone who cared about her more than anything. Lily woke up one morning with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in a long time. The dreams she had been afraid to chase for years now seemed within reach. She had always wanted to finish her education, but after everything that had happened, she never thought it was possible. Now, with Ethan's support and encouragement, she felt ready to take that first step toward a new future. As she sat at the kitchen table, sipping her coffee, she glanced at the papers spread out in front of her, scholarships, application forms, and information about different schools filled the table. The weight of it all was a little overwhelming, but she could handle it. She knew she had to try. Ethan walked into the kitchen, dressed for work, and gave her a warm smile when he saw the papers. Looks like you've been busy, he said, his voice light but full of encouragement. I have, Lily replied, looking up at him. I've been going through all the options, trying to figure out where to start. Ethan sat down beside her, placing his lunch on the counter. You're doing great. Just take it one step at a time. It'll all come together, Lily smiled, grateful for his unwavering support. She had never known someone who believed in her like Ethan did. Even when she doubted herself, he always found a way to remind her of her strength. I'll keep going, Lily said, determination in her voice. I'm not giving up this time. Ethan leaned over and gave her a quick kiss on the forehead. I know you won't, and I'll be here every step of the way. Later that day, as Lily walked home from the coffee shop, she felt a little more confident. She had submitted her application for one of the programs she had been researching. It wasn't much, but it was the first real step toward a future she could be proud of. She couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement. She had always been afraid to reach for something more, but now she was starting to believe it was possible. When she walked through the door of the apartment, Ethan was there, sitting on the couch with a book in his hands. He looked up when she came in, and his face lit up. How did it go? He asked eagerly. Lily's face broke into a wide smile. I did it, she said, her voice full of excitement. I submitted the application. I'm one step closer. Ethan jumped up from the couch, a proud grin spreading across his face. I knew you could do it, he said, pulling her into a tight hug. I'm so proud of you. Why? Lily walked over to the couch and sat down next to him, her body finally feeling the exhaustion of the day. I don't know what I would do without you, she said quietly. You've been there for me through all of this, and I don't think I could have made it without you. Ethan turned to face her, his expression serious. "You've made it on your own, Lily. I've just been here to support you. You're the one who's been doing all the hard work." Lily smiled, feeling a surge of gratitude for him. He had been right all along. It wasn't just his help that had gotten her this far. It was her own strength and determination. But he had made all the difference, giving her the confidence to keep going even when she wasn't sure she could. "You make it easy to keep going," Lily said softly, her eyes meeting his. Ethan's smile softened, and he reached out to gently hold her hand. "You've got so much potential, Lily. I'm just happy I get to be a part of your journey." Lily squeezed his hand, feeling her heart swell with love. She had never expected to find someone like Ethan. When she had first arrived at his apartment, cold and alone, she never could have imagined that he would become such an important part of her life now. She couldn't picture her future without him in it. As the days passed, Lily continued to grow in confidence, taking on new challenges, both at work and in her personal life. She was learning more about herself every day, realizing that she was capable of far more than she had ever believed, and with Ethan's constant support, she was starting to feel like she could finally start building the life she had always dreamed of. One afternoon, as Lily sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone, she saw an email notification pop up. Her heart raced as she opened it. It was from the school she had applied to. With trembling hands, she clicked open the message. Her eyes scanned the words, and then she saw it. "Congratulations. We are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted into the program," Lily gasped, her hands shaking with excitement. She had done it. She had made it. She quickly turned to Ethan, who had just walked into the room. "Ethan," she cried, holding up her phone. "I got in. I'm in." Ethan's eyes lit up, and he rushed over to her, his arms opening wide. "I knew you could do it," he said, lifting her up into a hug. "I'm so proud of you." Tears of joy filled Lily's eyes as she held onto him. This was the beginning of something new. A future she had once thought was impossible was now within her reach. And with Ethan by her side, she knew she could face anything that came her way. Lily stood at the window, staring out at the city below. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over everything, and for the first time in a long while, Lily felt at peace. The road ahead wasn't easy, but she was finally beginning to feel like she was on the right path. She had been accepted into the program she had dreamed about for years, and now it was up to her to keep moving forward. As she thought about the future, her heart swelled with hope. She had come so far from the girl who had sat alone in the park that cold evening, lost and unsure of where her life was headed. Now, she had a plan, a purpose, and most importantly, she had Ethan. His support and belief in her had helped her more than she could ever express. Ethan entered the room, holding two cups of tea in his hands. He smiled when he saw her by the window, her face illuminated by the warm light. "Here you go," he said, handing her a cup. "Thought you could use this." Lily turned to him with a smile, taking the tea from his hands. "Thanks," she said softly, her voice full of gratitude. She had learned to appreciate these quiet moments, these small acts of kindness. It was in these moments that she realized how much her life had changed. Ethan sat beside her, looking out the window too. For a few moments, neither of them spoke. The peaceful silence between them was comfortable, like the calm after a storm. It was the kind of silence that felt safe, where they didn't need to say anything to understand each other. After a while, Ethan spoke up. "So, what's next for you?" Lily looked at him, feeling the excitement bubbling up inside her. "I'm starting school next month," she said, her voice full of pride. "I'm nervous, but I'm ready. I think I can do this." Ethan's face lit up with a proud smile. "I have no doubt that you'll do great. You've already come so far." Lily's heart warmed at his words. She knew she had made progress, but hearing him say it made everything feel more real. He had been there every step of the way, offering his encouragement and support. And now, as she prepared to take the next big step in her life, she couldn't imagine facing it without him. "I'm glad you're here with me," she said softly. her voice almost a whisper. I don't know what I'd do without you. Ethan reached out and took her hand in his, giving it a gentle squeeze. You don't have to worry about that. I'll always be here for you, Lily. Always. Lily smiled, feeling a tear slip down her cheek. She quickly wiped it away, not wanting to show weakness, but Ethan noticed. He gently cupped her face with his hand, tilting her chin so their eyes met. You've been through so much, Lily, he said quietly, his voice full of understanding. But look at you now. You're stronger than you think, and you don't have to face anything alone. I'll be right here with you, every step of the way. Lily's heart raced as she looked into his eyes. There was a tenderness in his gaze that made her feel like she was the most important person in the world. For so long, she had believed that she didn't deserve happiness, that she didn't deserve someone like him. But now, with Ethan by her side, she felt like maybe she did. She leaned into his touch, feeling the warmth of his hand on her face. Thank you, she whispered, for everything. Ethan smiled softly, brushing a lock of hair from her face. You don't need to thank me, Lily. You've worked hard for everything you've accomplished. I'm just glad I could be here to see it. Lily felt a lump form in her throat as she looked at him. She had never imagined that life could be like this, full of hope, full of love. When she had first arrived at Ethan's apartment, she had been so broken, so lost. Now, she was looking forward to the future with a sense of purpose, and it was because of him. I can't believe how much my life has changed, Lily said, her voice full of wonder. It's like a dream, Ethan chuckled softly. It's not a dream, Lily. It's real. And it's all because you believed in yourself. Lily took a deep breath, feeling more confident than she ever had before. I'm starting to believe that I can have everything I've ever wanted, she said, her voice full of determination. Ethan smiled and kissed her forehead gently. You already have it. Lily, you have everything you need right here. Lily felt her heart swell with emotion as she rested her head on his shoulder. She had been through so much, and yet here she was, surrounded by love and support. She had a future to look forward to, a life that was no longer defined by her past mistakes or the struggles she had faced. With Ethan beside her, she knew she could handle whatever came her way. As they sat there together, the city lights shining brightly outside, Lily realized that this was only the beginning. She had taken the first step toward a new life, and with Ethan by her side, she was ready to take the next one. She didn't know what the future would hold, but for the first time in a long while, she was excited to find out. The months seemed to pass in a blur for Lily. Her life had changed so much since that cold evening when she had walked into Ethan's apartment, lost and uncertain. Now, she was finishing up her first semester at school, balancing classes and work, and living a life she had once thought impossible. The feeling of accomplishment she had never known was slowly becoming part of her reality. One evening, after returning home from class, Lily found Ethan sitting at the kitchen table, working on some papers. The soft glow of the lamp above him cast a warm light across the room. It was a quiet night, the kind they had come to cherish, where nothing extraordinary happened, but everything felt just right. Hey, how was your day? Ethan asked, looking up from his papers. Lily smiled as she set down her bag and slid into the chair across from him. It was good, a little tiring, but I'm getting used to the routine. Ethan nodded, his eyes filled with pride. You're handling it all really well. I'm impressed. Lily felt a rush of gratitude. Ethan had always been there for her, always cheering her on. Even when she doubted herself, it wasn't just that he believed in her. It was that he showed her she could believe in herself, too. Thank you, she said softly, her voice full of appreciation. I couldn't have done it without you. I still remember the day you let me into your apartment, just out of kindness. Ethan looked up at her, his smile gentle and sincere. You've come so far, Lily. I'm just glad I was able to help. The warmth in his voice made her heart swell. She had never expected to find someone like Ethan. He had become more than just someone who had helped her survive. He had become someone she cared about deeply, someone she couldn't imagine her life without. As the weeks passed, Lily's relationship with Ethan continued to grow. They spent their evenings together, often cooking dinner or watching a movie, and each moment felt like it brought them closer. There were times when their conversations would turn more serious, and Lily couldn't help but feel like there was more she needed to say. She had been feeling something for a while, something she hadn't fully acknowledged yet, and now she was ready to admit it to herself. One evening, after dinner, they were sitting on the couch, talking about everything and nothing. It was during one of these quiet moments that Lily decided to bring up what had been on her mind for some time. "Ethan," she began, her voice trembling slightly, "there's something I've been thinking about." He looked at her, his expression full of concern. "What is it?" Lily took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. "I've been thinking about us, and I realize that I'm falling in love with you." There was a pause as the words sank, and Lily felt her heart race, unsure of how Ethan would respond. She had never said these words to anyone before, and admitting them now felt like a huge step. Ethan's eyes softened, and a small, knowing smile spread across his face. He reached out and gently took her hand in his. "Lily," he said, his voice full of warmth, "I've been feeling the same way." Lily felt a rush of relief wash over her, as if a weight she didn't even realize she was carrying had been lifted. She had been afraid to open up, afraid that she might be putting herself at risk. But now that she had, everything felt clearer. Ethan's words were like a balm to her soul, soothing the doubts that had once held her back. "You don't know how much that means to me," Lily said, her voice soft and full of emotion. Ethan leaned in, his forehead gently resting against hers. "I'm glad you're in my life, Lily. I can't imagine it any other way." In that moment, everything seemed perfect. The future was still uncertain, but with Ethan by her side, Lily felt ready to face whatever came her way. She no longer saw herself as the broken girl who had once felt unworthy of love. Now, she was someone who was strong, capable, and loved deeply. As the months went on, their relationship continued to blossom. They made plans for the future, discussing where they would go after Lily graduated, what kind of life they wanted to build together. Each conversation, each plan, felt like a promise of love, trust, and companionship that neither of them had expected, but both had come to cherish. One weekend, as they were walking through the park near their apartment, Ethan turned to Lily with a serious expression. He had been quiet for a while, and Lily could tell that he was thinking about something important. "What is it?" she asked, her voice filled with curiosity. Ethan took a deep breath, his eyes locking with hers. "I've been thinking a lot about our future, and I realize that I want to spend the rest of my life with you, Lily." Lily's heart skipped a beat. She had no idea where this conversation was heading, but something inside her told her it was going to be life-changing. "I love you," Ethan continued, his voice steady, "and I want to make this official. Will you marry me?" Lily stopped in her tracks, completely caught off guard. Her mind raced as the reality of his words sank in. She had never imagined this moment, yet it felt like the most natural thing in the world. She loved him, too, more than she could put into words. Tears filled her eyes as she looked at him. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." Ethan's face broke into a wide, joyful smile, and he pulled her into a tight hug. "I promise you, I will always be here for you, through everything." Lily held onto him tightly, feeling the warmth of his embrace. This was it, the beginning of the rest of their lives together. She had found the love she had once thought impossible, and now she was ready to walk into the future with the man she loved. As they walked home, hand in hand, Lily realized that everything had changed. She had gone from being lost and uncertain to finding her place in the world, surrounded by love and hope, and with Ethan by her side. She knew that no matter what happened, they could face it together.